Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen, and with me, as always, we have Henno and Brian. Hey, guys.
Good evening.
Hey.
Or day, whenever you're listening.
Yeah.
Good morning, day, evening.
Morning, yeah, whenever.
Yep.
Whenevs. So, hey, everybody. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say to get us going this time.
What?
Yeah, I just kind of, I woke up from a nap not too long ago, so sorry, folks, if my energy isn't quite up there yet. But, yeah, so I guess let's go into the whole, what you been up to? What's going on?
Well, I can kick it off if you want.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was it, Saturday? Saturday. I'm checking my messages. So I'd spent Friday doing things around the house and buttoning a few things up. And Saturday morning, I'm going through my messages because I'd had a whole bunch of phone calls from lenders, and I just hadn't want to deal with any of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I gotta go through this and call people back and whatever. So I'm going through and I'm calling people back, and all of a sudden there was a one from a local phone number, and it was the appraiser saying, I can be there on Monday morning. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I, call him back and then have instant panic because Sharon went to Boise for the weekend and I got to clean the whole house.
Oh, no.
Nah, you don't have to.
It's not just the house. It's the basement too. You have to negotiate your way through the basement. I have so much junk just piled down there because when we did the window, I just took tons of furniture and things and just threw them down there.
Sure.
Gotcha.
And then there were just some things I wanted to do around the house that needed to be, that I didn't want an eyebrow getting raised about some, a couple things. So I just wanted to tidy some stuff up and, that's what I'd done on Friday. I painted. I was painting the front, which was great. So
right.
I was already in the process of doing some things. So then mass panic sets in, and I went till the wee hours of Saturday night. And then Sunday, Sharon came home early and she started working on some things. And then once again went to the wee hours of Sunday night, just getting everything done. And so by Monday morning, he called and he's like, yeah, you're like the fourth on the list. So I'm like, okay, I went to work and I figured, okay, it's probably roughly around 10:30. I'll come home. And so I came home at 10:30 and literally he drove right up, in and out 15 minutes, boom. And by the time I got home from work on Monday, I was so freaking tired. It was just like, when you just have those little things that you're in preparation for. Anyone that has done anything to do with homes understands this. And you just, when it's finally over with, you're just like, just the wall hits. I was like, but the greatest thing was walking in the house and just having everything be super clean.
Yeah.
Like, even though I killed myself for a guy to walk through for 15 minutes and take some photographs.
Yeah.
Massive dividends for a while now. And the other part was my fiance is infinitely happy because, as I've said a million times before, she cannot stand clutter. And now there are clean countertops everywhere all over the house.
Nice.
And even though a lot of stuff just went into boxes and I don't have to go through them again, but like now you can walk in the basement and there's room to like go through all this stuff. And there are boxes down there that are still full of stuff from, when I moved, and it's time to just start, because I literally just started throwing stuff away finally, and you finally hit your point.
That's where I'm at.
I think tossing stuff.
I think I'm at that point like this summer with my stuff over in storage. Like when I moved, I didn't have a lot of time, so I kind of did the same thing. Just threw it all in boxes, put it in storage, and it's like, all right, it's been a few years now. It's like, I should probably go through some of that and get rid of some of the things that are not necessary anymore,
That's it. Yeah. And just things where it's like, okay, like you said, it's been 3 years. I haven't touched this thing.
Exactly.
It can go now.
Yep. Same time frame.
The necessity is definitely not there.
Right.
You guys have been watching the commercial for Let It Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, right?
So that felt really good to get all that done and to still feel motivated and also to jump back in on the leftover wedding stuff. Mm-hmm. Nailing down RSVPs, coming up with what we're going to do for the reception, and this, I suddenly feel a lot more free. And the one thing that is left, and this is the kind of one of the things that I wanted to bring up to you guys that hit me today, was I was just pondering the idea of that I don't have this credit card debt anymore, right? Yeah. Like, it'll be gone. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that I've always talked about in my, with any of the 12-step groups I've been involved with, is this idea that, feeling free is in our heads. When it comes to money, if I want to feel, abundance is an inner, it's an inside job. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If I want to have abundance with nothing, I have abundance with nothing. That's up to me.
Yeah.
Right. And the same thing, and that's what's kind of gone on with debt, living with debt. And I started realizing it applies to anything that you're having to live with, is that I have a choice of whether I'm going to live my life free, even though I'm dealing with this, or I can just be miserable and constantly be in it. And that's typical. Like if somebody has a health issue, whether it's a physical issue, a mental health issue, something like that, there's a point where we either choose to kind of rise above it and have the best attitude we can and, go on, or just, basically give up. But the one thing that I realized with the credit card thing is when it's gone, I'm truly free. Mm-hmm. Like it's gone.
Yeah.
Like there's it's gone. I don't have to pretend I'm free. I am free.
Right. Yeah.
And it brought up the idea of, and it feels different to me. The idea of that feels different because I talk a lot on this podcast about being in a mental state where even though I might be financially not doing well, I'm going to have the attitude that I live in abundance and that I'm prosperous, because it's about the true happiness, the happy, the richness of loved ones in our lives and a roof over our heads and those necessities fulfilled and not letting the negatives, come in. But even still, I'm always aware of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also applies with that's what I kind of wanted to bring up. It's like, if you're dealing with a mental health issue that you always have to deal with it and you've made a decision that, okay, I'm not going to let this get me down. The difference between that and having it literally gone.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. There is definitely a difference in that. Cause it's not something that, like if it was gone, I don't know how, how you would behave. I think I've told you that in the past, I know, that I was like, if someone just snapped their fingers and my depression was gone, I'd be like, I don't know how to act now because that's who I've been,
That's it.
Yeah.
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 It becomes it's part of you.
It really is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And part of me is managing my debt.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It has been for so long.
Right. And any decision you make is going to be influenced heavily by that, much like mine with my anxiety or depression. Like, hey, Brian, do you want this? Well, I got to run through this other stuff first. If all of a sudden that was gone, I'd be like, I guess, it might just change, change life a lot on that.
Yeah. And even physical things, I think of, people that have to deal with, they have cancer and that hopefully is temporary, but, or something where you've lost a leg, you have a prosthetic, you have, and it really made me really realize how huge it is when medicine comes in and does something really significant for someone, where they go from being barely able to walk to hey, you actually get to go out and run now.
Yeah, exactly.
We fixed this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that thing is gone. And so it really brought up the idea of what really is freedom in my head. What truly is it? Is it really an inside job, or is it still my circumstances?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want it to be my circumstances.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the nice part is, go ahead.
How full of it am I when I promote this idea of freedom is inside? That's where I'm getting at with this.
Mm-hmm.
How much am I talking out my,
Yeah.
I don't think you are. I mean, because how you mentally approach situations and your mental well-being dictates how a situation is handled, how you handle a situation. And it's very important that it's that whole choosing to look on the positive, that the choosing to work through situations from a position of calm and from a position of I've got this, of calm confidence. That's where I was going for. Having that calm confidence behind you when you approach things, that is all mental. Because you can be like in this particular case, debt free and still feel burdened by debt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, people. I know people like that.
Yep.
Exactly. I think
they still live with it every day,
or they're living under the fear of returning to that position.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
people who lose a lot of weight do.
Choosing to go about it.
Yeah. Yeah. People who lose a lot of weight live that way a lot of time too.
That's those are great points. That's the one thing a lot of people in the money programs I'm part of. Let's say they grew up with scarcity. Mm-hmm. in their lives because of their families, because of the way their parents were. And all of a sudden now they have plenty of money, but they still have the mentality of living in scarcity.
Yep.
Yes.
Because it's
and
never
they're
enough.
trying to learn how to, what's that?
I said sometimes they feel like it's never enough.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's restrictive, that it actually, and that's why they're trying to get over it. They're trying to say, when I have this money, I can use it. I don't have to be afraid of it.
Yeah.
The fear.
Exactly. And it's the both ends of it. I think it's a combination of stuff. I mean, you have to be realistic. You do have to be realistic, and you do have to, understand the complete situation that you're in. Because knowledge is power. We all learned that in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you got to make sure, you do need to make sure that obviously it's like you've been in a position of debt, and now that that's alleviated, obviously you want to make sure you learn from that so you don't do the same things, and 5 years from now you're like, well,
here I am again. Yep.
Hey, can I get a second mortgage?
And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I knew I was going to get a different perspective on it. And that is, we can still be bound by fear, even when the circumstance, like you said, Brian, like if your depression is just suddenly removed tomorrow, you could still be walking every day in that fear, just because you've gotten so used to life in a certain way.
Yeah. And I think I would probably, for at least for a while, until I could keep working on changing my mental outlook on that, cause, I've been in this mental set for 20-ish years, you don't just snap your fingers and that's gone,
Yeah.
So, yep.
And so the inside then it is true that regardless of circumstances around me, it's still an inside job. That's what it really comes down to, no matter what. Even if I am literally made physically free, I can still be a captive in my own mind.
Yeah. And,
absolutely,
to beat the dead horse, that kind of thinking is, distorted thinking. So I, just want to point that out. So if you do find yourself in a situation like Heno, is in, or again, if you've, lost weight and you're living in fear of putting it back on, it's like, these are things that, if you're in therapy, talk to your therapist about. Otherwise, like I've said before, look up cognitive, distortion thinking, that kind of thing, or just distorted thinking, and look that up and look at the worksheets for that to try to help yourself stay out of that, so that when you do catch yourself acting because of a fear, you can stop, reframe, and then potentially, act on logic instead. And again, it doesn't even have to be a mental illness situation. The money thing happens to so many people, and it doesn't have to be mental illness, but that tool still can be very valuable to somebody else, So, all the stuff we talk about on here isn't always just for mental health or, mental illness based. Sometimes it's just a good tool in general.
Wellness based. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the weight analogy is so accurate.
Yeah. Cause I've seen that plenty of times. That's one that I'm sure I would have if I lost a bunch of weight. Well, you know what I did? Cause at one point when I lost 70 pounds, like in high school, I was still behaving from a place of fear as far as when I was eating. I didn't really want to put the weight back on, So, yeah. It's easy to do.
Absolutely. And it's a whole interesting concept, because I choose to live in the positive, and it's an active choice that I make on a daily basis. Sometimes I catch myself sliding too far the other direction, and I have to recenter myself and get myself back on it. But, I feel that is who I want to be, and that's the life I want to live, is in the world of the positive versus get bogged down by negatives. So that's what I can completely relate to kind of what you've been saying, Heno, about that mentally living in abundance and keeping your mind in those positive arenas while still keeping a check basically on reality. Because there's a combination, you can't lose touch with what's really happening in the world around you. So, you do have to make sure you keep that balanced. But, yeah, absolutely. Living life in mental abundance is always a good place to be.
Well, it's really the goal, it's like the work that I'm doing in therapy and outside of therapy. That's really the goal, is to not live in the fear, because that really is, that's how, because it has drastically affected my decision making and my lifestyle. So as a result, that's the goal I'm going for too, even though it's a different context than Henno's going for. But the end goal is still the same because it's just a better place to live anyway, So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's my week.
All right.
Thanks. How about you, Brian? What's going on?
Well, I got a new bed, which is,
Woohoo!
oh man. Yeah. We, went out and picked it up the other day and, Tony, took me out there to get it and, he got to see just how awful the old one I was using was. And no joke, the new mattress I got is almost as big as the previous mattress and box spring together.
Wow.
That's how broken down that
Nice.
mattress was. Yeah, it was awful. But I no more than laid down on the new bed. When I got it home, I laid down on it and I'm like, oh my God, this is so much better. It was great. And, it's great. The 2 nights I've slept on it now, I've woke up, my knees aren't really bothering me. Which that's a huge win for me because, that other bed I was waking up every day and my knees were hurting,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
I just kind of assumed that it might have more to do with just, some arthritis or whatever, but the last couple of days my knees haven't hurt much at all. And like last night I fell asleep about 7 this morning and didn't wake up till 3. So I slept just about 8 hours straight. Like I didn't wake up at all. So yeah, hopefully that'll continue cuz
Awesome.
yeah, the only downside to it, and I tweeted this out, was kind of like, I'm not sure somebody with depression should have a bed as comfortable as the one I have. I already have enough trouble getting out of bed some days, and now it's like, man, it's so comfortable.
That's funny.
Of course I say that jokingly, but it's, because obviously, waking up with less stiffness in my joints and all that makes it easier to get out of bed. When you wake up, I feel a little more rested. My knees aren't aching. It's like, yeah, it's a little easier to just kind of, all right, I'm going to get up now versus the other days where it's like, oh, I hurt all over. And it's, so I'm just going to lie here, because that'll make it better.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was quite nice though. And it's funny, we've talked on here plenty of times about how, I think when we talked about sleep, we talked about that, how people will overlook how important, your mattress is or whatever, and that counts as self-care. It's in that same arena, but it is one that kind of gets overlooked. And, I got a little lucky that I got, a mattress that was out of my price range, but it was because of some ridiculous sale that was going on. I got it in my price range, so I got, normally at the price point that I'd have to buy a bed, it wouldn't be very much of a, good product. But I got one that was nicer, so I lucked out there too. And, so it's overlooking that stuff, it's like, how important that just that part of things can be, just that being restful and being comfortable in bed. Like last night, the night before, I laid down and I didn't have to keep moving around trying to find a comfortable spot. I laid down and I was comfortable. It was boom, that fast. That's how comfortable the bed is to me. That's such a difference because the other one, it's like, well, if I turn this way, I got to move my leg because there's a spring poking me in the, in the leg, or it's right underneath my knee. So it's bugging me. And, I'm spending an hour trying to just get comfortable. And, so it's really nice to not have to do that stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So then last night I went out with some friends to, pub trivia, and unfortunately the streak got broken. So, yeah, I had gone 3 previous times. We took first each of those 3 times and we did not place last night. So, but
wow,
there were
an off night.
Well, there were like 14 teams too. So there was a lot of people.
Wow.
And, and, I think we were still in the top probably top-ish range, but we, didn't get enough to place. So, unfortunately, but, it was still a good time, which is really all that matters. So.
Yeah, the whole point. So as long as you enjoy yourself.
Yep. We did. We all seemed to have a good time anyway, as far as I know. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I didn't, flip out and yell at anybody, so that's always a good thing.
That's always positive. Yep. That's good. Baby steps.
Right. So yeah, that's been pretty much what I've done this week. Yeah.
Well, I've been, not to go into too many details, but I've been dealing with more anxiety than I have been in the past, just in the past week or two. Just there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of change happening in my work arena that is, I think, in the end going to be positive, but it's just causing a lot of anxiety on my part.
Sure.
And I'm not taking my medicine as regularly as I should be again. I've fallen off the wagon.
Uh-oh.
I know.
Hold on. We here at the Crazy Life Podcast do not promote not taking your medicine.
We do not promote going off your meds for any reason other than doctor prescribed reasons.
Yes.
So, no, I've gotten out of my routine, which has caused me to slack on taking my medicine regularly, which is making the anxiety attacks come back more frequently and more strongly than they normally would be. And they suck. And it just dawned on me today that I'm like, seriously, I am self-inflicting here.
Yeah.
The worst.
Yeah, so it's not even like somebody else is doing this to me. I am doing this to myself.
Yeah, this isn't like an insurance issue or something like that, like I've gone through, to where it's frustrating enough. I do the same thing, though, like when I run out of a prescription, and a week later I'm like, I should go get that. So,
right, it's like, I am self-sabotaging.
Yep.
And which is not a good place to be.
Nope.
So I need to kick myself in the booty and get myself going on that. So yeah, I've been trying to kind of fight through them. Today was a pretty bad stress day, anxiety day. So I've been doing a lot of my breathing exercises and stuff, and trying to keep myself as centered as possible. And my husband is always great and very supportive, and he's as he put, he's like, I always give you what you need when you need it. And I'm like, well, you try.
Well, that really is all a person can do,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. And that's what I said. I said, well, you try. And I said, that's all that matters. And he laughed, and I told him, I'm like, well, fix this. He's like, oh, babe, sometimes you just got to ride it out. I'm like,
that is accurate. Yep. Unfortunately.
So everybody understands. It's like, sometimes you just got to ride it out. You just got to suck it up and ride it out. And it sucks riding it out.
Yep.
But what are you going to do? So, yes, this is what you're going to do to myself here. Get yourself back on a routine and taking your medicine on a daily basis, and then you don't have to face these as bad.
Right.
The ones that you have won't be nearly as bad as the ones that you've been getting. So, anyways, so now that's a little talking to for myself. I also shot a .22 rifle for the very first time. I actually shot a gun.
Oh, really?
This week.
You never have?
I've never shot a gun.
Okay, well,
Really?
You know what question I'm going to ask you, Jen, right? Did you cry?
I did not cry.
Okay.
But the reason I did not cry is I had an amazing teacher.
Okay.
Which is not my husband.
No, Hanno, for years she had always said that if she shot a gun, she would probably cry. So I had to ask.
Okay.
And the reason, cause when I'm very sensitive to loud noises and, loud noises and surprises, even expected surprises. it triggers tears in me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a natural reaction that I have. That, along with I can't scream, I have to eep, which we've talked about before. So,
did you
kind of go hand in hand.
Did you eep when you shot it?
Didn't eep, but here's the thing: the 22 rifle I got was a 22 long bullet, and the rifle I was using was semi-automatic.
Okay.
So it doesn't have recoil. And the sound wasn't a boom, it was a pop.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Pretty mellow.
That makes it, okay. So it sounds like, it was catered more to what you needed it to be versus the recoil and boom sound.
Yeah. It wasn't like someone handed me a shotgun and like, here, fire this.
Yeah.
The gentleman that was with me, that showed me, how to shoot the gun and stuff like that. He's a former cop and actually a gun instructor, a gun safety instructor.
Okay.
So for many, many years. And we were up at the hunting cabin up north, and he went through and he picked the 22 long shell rifle for me. Because of that, because it makes a sound. But he walked through it, he shot it first, so I would see what happens, I would hear what happens, and that whole thing. Now, he has his own pistol, which I don't know what it is, but it's a pretty heavy duty pistol that he used to carry his personal firearm when he was on the force, as well as he uses it for security detail and stuff that he does now for private security details. So he brought that outside, and I was inside with the window open. And he's like, I'm going to fire this on off, and this one is the recoil and the bang, and the whole thing. Right. I said, okay. So as I'm standing there, that's when I teared up. That's when I had the anxiety. That's when I eeped. Was when he the boom, when he got the shotgun out or the pistol out, and it was boom versus a pop. So, but I did do it, and nice. My husband was all excited, and he's like, "Oh, we can stop by and get Dad's pistol on the way home." And I'm like, no. Like, we're very, very far away from that aspect, and us actually having a gun in the house for that purpose,
right.
And because we've got a couple rifles here that are like family heirloom rifle type things, but nothing newer. So we'll see. But that was my exciting part of the weekend. So. But it was a nice weekend, just going up north, about 3 hours up into northern Michigan and stuff. So
how was the drive up there and everything?
It was nice. It was wasn't too bad. My husband does all the driving because most of it was done at night. So, and I'm not the best night driver. But non-eventful, which is good. I like non-eventful. Or uneventful, I should say. Uneventful car rides are always my favorite.
Yeah.
Yes. Unlike a woman I work with who smelled smoke and pulled over to the side of the road to figure it out, and then her car caught fire.
Oh my.
So she had to grab her and her kids, and she's like, out now.
Yeah.
And they got out, and as soon as they got out, it went poof.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
All right.
Then. Yeah. So.
Barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't, I've been through a lot of having to pull over, moments, but none of them were the car catching on fire, Most of them were generally a belt broke or, a flat tire or, just overheating kind of situation most of the time. So, yeah. I mean, that can create a lot of, smoke, but.
She overheated.
That's all it was?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
I was trying
okay.
to the fire, he hot over. But I'm bumped. here all week, folks. Try to be.
Where's my drummer?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So, well, which kind of brings us to what we are going to talk about today is something that's near and dear to all of our hearts, which is Mental Health Awareness Week. Yay! Woo-hoo. So, month. Sorry,
Month,
I said
yeah.
week. I meant month.
Well, it's both.
Brain's still not on straight. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
That's because you're here all week.
Yeah.
I'm here all week.
Yeah.
I'm here all month.
Yeah.
Participate in mental health. See, I can't even talk. Mental Health Awareness Month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a lot of awesome things happening this month.
Mhm.
There are local events happening probably around your area,
Yep.
as well as national events happening,
Yeah, there was
including, I know, Brian, you were saying there's something on Twitter?
there was just well, yeah, I'll get to that in a little bit, but there was just like here where we are, there was a NAMI walk last week, or last weekend to raise awareness and money for mental health and stuff. So yeah, those kind of things are probably happening all over the place, you know. So, you know, if you want to find one in your area, you know, go to NAMI.org and, you know, you can probably find that kind of thing. Plus, NAMI is a great website anyway. It's NAMI. And they, you know, they've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, that you can look at. There's, you know, different, information and stuff on there too. It's, like I said, it's just a really good website.
It's definitely, it's that time of month it's that time of year, this month, that really helps me to kind of just take that moment and reflect back on the journey that we've come with the podcast, as well as the journey that I've been on with my mental health and my decision to basically come out about my mental health with people. And it just makes me reflect back on it and to really think about my decision. I'm very happy with my decision, obviously, and or else I wouldn't continue to keep doing it. But it is so incredibly important. We've talked about it here many times, how finding in yourself your own balance. And, you know, you don't have to be that person that walks around going, I got a mental health issue. I got a mental health issue. I got a mental health issue. Hi, I got a mental health issue. You don't have to be that person either. You know, you can do a lot with your mental health and mental health awareness and helping others without having to be all about, you know, I am Mr. Mental Health or Mrs. Mental Health. Just finding your balance, finding what works best for you and the outlet that works best for you, whether it's volunteering, whether it's participating in a walk, whether it's helping to raise money or donations, you know, whether it's speaking out to friends and family or even taking the stage and speaking out to large groups of people in arenas of people about mental health. Do your part to whatever part you can do. You know, everybody can play a role and everyone has opportunity to kind of step outside themselves and just really focus on it.
Well, it doesn't even have to be anything on a large scale too. It's like if you don't know very much about mental illness, you know, read some things. Like look for the warning signs for suicide. Look for the warning signs for depression or bipolar or you know, those kind of things so that you can just know. And it's not so that you can like, you know, so you can diagnose somebody or preach to them or anything like that. But it's just it's good to know what the signs of some of this stuff is so that you can be aware, you know, or if you have a friend that has, you know, a mental illness, you know, look into what it's like for them. You know, go to a website like The Mighty. They have people who, almost all of the content I think on that website is by people who have whatever it is that they're writing about. You know, so if it's an article on depression, it's from someone who has depression, like those kind of things, you know, or go to like Psychology Today and you can read about, different stuff more from the scientific side of things, like there's all that information out there if you want it, and in the end, it can help you understand a little more what your friends and family may be going through.
Absolutely. And the other thing to keep in mind, mental health awareness doesn't have to be diagnosed mental illnesses either that we're talking about. Mental health is something that affects each and every one of us. It's making sure that just like you exercise your body, you have to exercise your mental health as well to keep it, or your mental aspects to keep it healthy. How you look at things, your positive attitudes, avoiding bogging yourself down with anxieties and stresses and a lot of the different things that happen on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to have a mental illness to be mentally ill, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. You can help yourself become more healthy.
Yeah.
Just by doing a lot of these exercises, the breathing techniques that we talk about, just the different mental exercises and stuff you can do.
Yeah. Not to mention, this is also a great time to where, if you're reading something and you start ticking off things on a checklist, like you'll see in commercials or on these lists, sometimes it'll be like, here are the symptoms of whatever. If you realize, are looking at this going, wow, I kind of feel like I have a lot of this, it's, go talk to somebody, go talk to your general practitioner. And, if they feel the need that, they may refer you to a psychologist or a psychiatrist or both, to maybe run you through, a test to kind of see, and maybe you do have something, or maybe you don't, and maybe you just need the peace of mind of, nope, that's all just normal stuff, but yeah, it's a great time to just talk about this, if nothing else, like just, talk to people. Again, if you have a friend that has something, talk to them about it. Find out how they feel, why it's hard for them to get, and again, if, approach it from a non-judgmental standpoint, just, hey, I want to know more about this. Can you, and talk to them about it, and because first of all, that'll show somebody that you care also, which is always nice because, one of the number one things of most mental illnesses is, especially depression, is that it makes you feel alone. That, that kind of a thing is that you are alone. No one cares. You're worthless, all those kind of things. So if you reach out to somebody and say, hey, I want to know more about what you're going through so that I can, be a better friend, or I can be a better part of your support system, or however you want to word that, again, just approaching it from a non-judgmental point, and a and don't get into a comparison kind of situation, that kind of thing. Just let them tell you, and then, let that digest, basically. Don't constantly offer advice, those kind of things. Like I said, a non-judgmental way will get so much further, and it may make the person feel like you care more, which cannot be undervalued when it comes to this kind of thing. Because a lot of times that when people reach a point of complete helplessness, it's because they feel like nobody cares. So,
Exactly.
And one of the things with anyone that's suffering, whether it's from substance abuse issue or mental health issue, typically, and this has been my experience, and I know it's also been, the experience with you guys, is that it's little things that could trigger a large movement towards getting better. And if you are, this is a great opportunity to plant that seed that can grow.
Yeah. I
know for myself, it was a series of little seeds and little things. And then all of a sudden that one trigger finally occurred. And I remembered all those little conversations or things that somebody, did for me or whatever it was. And so a little can be enough. if you're willing to listen and, like Brian said, not be confrontational or judgmental, is to, if there's somebody in your life that is suffering from substance abuse or mental health issues, is to take this opportunity to engage with them and just listen. Ask them how they're doing. How are they feeling? Ask if you can help in some way. Can you help? And maybe if that person says, well, yeah, I've been thinking about seeking out some professional help. Well, if you need any help looking into that, I'll help you with that. Because someone with mental illness, as we've talked about many times, not so good with talking to people on the phone.
Right.
Like maybe you could help to make a phone call if they're at that point. And if not, to at least be able to make a connection and say, well, just to let them know that, I'm concerned, I'm here for you, or, I'm thinking about you, and then take this as the impetus to check in again.
Yeah.
See if you can check in again with them in a month or so and see how they're doing, and seeing if they're ready, because that's the one thing is I know for myself, it took a long time till I really became ready and willing to do the work. And it can take time. And like, if you go back and listen to the episode where Brian, talked to Tony and Jeannie and even on their salty language where, just keep calling, it is just that whole idea of don't give up, just keep calling.
Yep.
Keep reaching your hand out, and just with that, on that odd chance that a hand's going to reach back and grab and say, hey, I need a lift.
Right. And, and again, we understand it's not easy to do. It is difficult to keep reaching out and getting nothing back, but there's a difference. There's sometimes when people just don't want you to be part of their lives, and there's sometimes when something's holding them back. And this is, and that's the thing is if you just talk with them and different stuff, that eventually maybe they'll open up to you, you hope. And, but, like Heno said, it's a great opportunity to reach out once and then do so again. Because again, that solidifies that you care, that first time they might go, oh, you're just asking because whatever, but the second, the third, the fifth time, it's like, no, I'm showing you with my repeated movement, behavior that I care. I want to, I want to help you, you offer to, if they're going to go to therapy for the first time, offer to go with them. Like, obviously not in the office, but, go with them to the office or whatever, take them, say, hey, we'll just do that. And maybe we can, grab lunch or something on the way back, or, like make, try to help them. Like Heno said, or if you can make a phone call for them, that might make a huge difference for some people. Cause literally that might be the only thing really standing in their way,
I just realized that I had a really great moment a couple days ago while I was on the weekend when I was cleaning up. My buddy Andrew, who I've mentioned many times on here, who struggles, and I recently had a phone call with him where he was hammered out of his head, and eventually, after talking to him for a while, I said, I don't talk to drunks.
Yeah.
It was the truth. And, I talk to sober alcoholics. Those are the people I communicate with. I don't go around looking for drunks to talk to because there's no point.
Yeah.
And he didn't like that, and he hung up on me.
Right.
And I hadn't heard from him. And, it's like, I've said this over and over again. My hand is always out for him, but I'm not going to let him drag me into his hole. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And so one of those messages that I got on Saturday was him. And he was a complete, it was so bad. He was angry, and he decided to let it out at me by telling me that I'm judgmental while literally judging me. So the phrasing was literally, he made a judgment on me and then said that I was judgmental. And I just called back and I got his voicemail, and I just unloaded.
Yeah.
And because something that hit me recently, which was, he goes, it's typical with alcoholics where when you decide that you're ready for help, that everyone should step up and help you. Mm-hmm. I'm ready now. do for me? And the one thing that kind of hit me, and I told him, I said, for a change, why don't you walk into one of those rooms and ask what you could do for them? Why don't you walk in and ask what you can do for somebody else?
Yeah.
Rather than, I've always been a taker. That's part of my disease.
Yeah.
Is I take and take and take and take. And I needed to give back for a while and get out of my head. So the great thing that happened is that he called me back a little later that afternoon, and we had the most amazing conversation.
Oh, good.
There was actual truth there, some honesty. And one of the best parts is finally at some point, I was able to say and tell him that I want him to get better. I want him. I want nothing more in the world for him to let go of these burdens that he carries with him all the time.
Yeah.
And it's the real reason he drinks. And they go back to childhood, and some of the stuff is family stuff. And it's like work with a therapist kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I suggested a book for him to read, and I told him, I said, this is what, and I'll tell anyone here too. It's if you struggle with relationships, if you struggle with, I cannot recommend Codependent No More by Melody Beatty. It is an eye-opener. It changed my entire world about how I view all different kinds of relationships. And the first thing I did was I was going through and I was starting to point at everyone else that has the problems, and then it finally was able to turn around on myself.
Yeah.
And I suggested to him, and I said what I got from it and what it's about, and it was like I could hear the light bulb go off on the other side of the phone.
Well, good.
He's like, that's because his thing is like he gets burned all the time because he puts, he does something for somebody and then it doesn't work out well. And, that's it. And it's a cycle, and you go to drink and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Anyhow, I'm totally going off on a tangent,
No,
but it was so great because I didn't even make the connection. Okay, this is, mental, health awareness month. And I got to make a connection finally, and I hope he sticks with it.
Yeah.
He's talking to other people, which is big, and I told him, I said, maybe the cohabitating thing, not so big. You shouldn't do that. The last two have been disasters,
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to not define crazy and expect different results a third time.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that happens too, because you don't, I don't know how to word what I'm thinking here. It's, it reminds you of, how you'll see a relationship end, and then boom, one of those people is like immediately into another long-term relationship, and then that is just becomes like a train wreck. And it's just like, sometimes you just gotta have some time to yourself to kind of figure, okay, this is what I want going forward. And I think, sometimes that'll happen in those situations too. Like if his head's not right, putting him into a situation with another person, it's like, if you just happen to just pick the wrong person, it's just a train wreck. It's like he needs to straighten himself out to be that, so he can be a better, whatever it is, whether it's a roommate or, a partner in a relationship, whatever. It'll just work out better in the long run. So, like you said, it's like maybe set the, let's set that aside for a minute,
One of the things that I shared and I had this shared with me, and it made so much sense. When I first got sober, of course, I'm trying to improve myself. I'm going through growth. I'm changing. And one of the immediate things you do is say, oh, well, maybe, it would be, I'm a little lonely. It would be great to, be with somebody. I'm feeling better now. Maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should start dating. This seems like a great idea, right? And I had a couple people with a lot of sobriety tell me, I envy you that you're by yourself. I not only do I have to go through my own growth and my own changes and my own struggles with basically redefining who I am, I also have to do that within the context of a marriage. I have to do it within the context of being a father.
Yeah.
I have to, and they're like, you have it. You're the lucky one. You get to focus on you 100%. Nobody else, just you. And I kind of shared that. I said, give this some thought. You're in a place right now where you can do as much work as you want on your own to improve your situation, to improve your headspace, to improve your heart. And you don't have to bring anybody along with you.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
And it's a little counterintuitive when we're in that place, but from my experience, it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. And I can see that for some people, it definitely would be, it's
Absolutely.
funny you bringing all this up. I didn't even think about pointing that out, but it is a great, a point to make also is that, like Jen said, with mental health awareness, it's like, this isn't just, mental illnesses or depression or whatever. Like this also, like addiction fits in this world as well as, like just anybody kind of fits in here, but also, addiction. If you have a friend who's struggling with some of this stuff, these things still work. But like Henno said, you do have to be prepared in both situations they have to be ready, otherwise you're going to be met with resistance and, maybe even, yelling and
now is not the time to go and try to fix somebody.
Right.
Now is the time to offer some help and be a good listener.
Right. And really not just because it's awareness month, but just any time. But yeah.
But anytime. We're always, that's the one part that I loved about reading that book is I learned what's my part and what's somebody else's part, what I can do and what I can't do.
Yeah.
Who I control and who I can't. And it literally is, one of them is me, it's the only thing I get to control.
True.
And, and these are these things where when we do have a loved one, or even it could be a coworker, it could be a neighbor, somebody who is struggling in this way sometimes it's very difficult to understand because we are loved ones. We are best friends. We are whatever. And we think, why won't they listen to me?
Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with me that I can't help them?
Yeah.
Why won't they take my advice? And the fact of the matter is, it's not about you.
Right. That's true.
It's about them.
Yep. But it is really difficult because so many people are fixers, and because we just don't, like me, I'm a fixer and I just don't want to see other people suffer.
Of course not.
That's, that's all it comes down to is like, it's like, I want to help because I don't want you to go through something I've gone through or some, just whatever you're going through that hurts. It's, even though realistically we all need to go through things that hurt because we learn from them. And it's like failures, you need to have failures in life. You can't have all successes. You're going to get hurt. That's part of the growth process because you learn from it, as they said in the, what was it? Princess Bride, life is pain.
Yeah. And here's another great opportunity for family members to learn a little bit more about your loved ones or, whoever it is, like family members, friends, coworkers, what they're going through, and to maybe get a little bit of understanding because nobody can understand the person with depression and why they can't get up and do and be there for their husband, their wife, their brother, their sister. Like, what's wrong with you? Aren't I good enough? It's like that has nothing to do with it.
It's the same with addiction too.
Yeah, if nobody can understand why that bottle, you'll never know why that bottle is more important than this relationship.
Yep.
Or whatever it is. Here's a good opportunity to find some acceptance, to learn a little bit, to understand. That I thought, some of the greatest conversations happens when you finally get out of yourself being the victim and you look at the other person and you say, all right, how is it like for you? Because I want to understand more what it's like for you. Mm-hmm. And then maybe I can be a better support for you.
Well, again, it's like you're not directly trying to fix someone, but you're trying to find out how you can help, make it better, fix them, however you want to word it at that point. But, because if you do learn about like things that trigger people with anxiety, like what are your anxiety triggers? And then when the people tell you, hey, like for me, it's large crowds bother me a lot. being in a car bothers me a lot, like those kind of things. When people find that out, they tend to be more receptive. I told the story on here about, a friend, Jeannie, walking me through a crowd because she recognized that I was getting anxious. In Chicago, you guys all saw how anxious I was and were like, let's go somewhere else. That's awesome because you guys know my triggers. You can see that I'm behaving differently and you care. All these things factor in.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's how important and how great it is when you have friends who know, what you're going through and what you need. Because you guys, when we were in Chicago, when I was like, I can't handle this, it wasn't, oh, come on. It was all, everybody was like, okay, let's go somewhere else. Boom. We went somewhere else. It was calmer. Perfect. It was exactly what I needed. You did the same thing after we were at the art, museum, it was like, let's hang out in the room because, we both kind of needed that, so that's what I mean. It's like, that's what the importance of reaching out and stuff is. And that's how it just easily, just by those kind of things, you can just easily transition into, that person that's, like I knew no matter where I was at, basically, like when we were in Chicago, if I would have been like, Henno, I need to leave, he probably would have been like, cool, let's go,
Yeah.
I know Tony and Jeannie are that way. Jen's that way. It's like, it's awesome when you reach that point because now I don't feel as alone. I at least feel like I've got people, around me that are looking out for me and want to help. So that's what that reaching out and understanding and those questions, all that kind of stuff, that's what it manifests in the long run. Not always. Don't get me wrong. There's some people, again, if they're not ready for that,
And it's about coming from a place of not necessarily, you're never going to be able to fully understand, but coming from a place of acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, you're not going to be able to understand. Everyone has experiences that are different, and some are similar. Some, may mirror each other, but it's one thing to be empathetic to someone where they're at and understand kind of what they're talking about. But it's a whole nother thing to accept them for who they are, accept them for what it is, accept what they are saying is their reality. Whether it's real or not, that's their reality.
Yeah.
So you have to accept that that's where they're at and then move forward from there. Because I know a lot of times we'll get in our own ways trying to help other people. We're like, no, that's not, you can do this. And, and we're trying to be encouraging. We're trying to be helpful. And what needs to happen is more of an acceptance that it is a challenge, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And that's the key is, the approach makes all the difference in it because if you approach it from a non-judgmental kind of situation, it's like most of the time people are acting from the goodness of their heart, and they'll be like, someone will come over and be like, hey, let's go do this. And you're like, and they're like, come on, once you're there, you'll feel, and it's like, yeah, that may be true, but you don't understand the time from now till then, I'm going to be insane. Like not insane, but it's like, it's going to make me it's going to be so awful for me, that it's like, I have to determine that is worth it to get to the end result. And, sometimes it is not because right now it doesn't, it's like, nope, right now it is not going to be better. Sometimes it is, sometimes like, cool, let me get my shoes or, you're right. Yep. But you have to be careful with that kind of stuff because, sometimes people with depression and stuff, we do need a nudge sometimes. But you have to be careful. A nudge is not the same as pulling me, and if I feel like somebody's really leaning on me to do something, that adds to the stress of it. That does not make it any better, that just adds more to the front end stress, which is the problem. It's the barrier I have to get through for the end result. So, just be aware of that too. Just very careful. So, I want to point out too, I saw this today, which I think is cool. Where is it? Instagram launched a campaign called #HereForYou. And they're basically, it's for people to tell their stories of their mental illnesses, like, you know, your successes, and it could be anything, the struggle you're going through, the success, whatever. But basically the whole point of it is to open a dialogue, or to promote a dialogue, either way, about mental illness, you know, and it's a social media platform trying to use it, you know, find a way to, you know, cause there's all these reports and stuff out there that social media is bad for people with mental illnesses, and it causes people to, you know, for depression, and they have FOMO and all these other things we've talked about. But this is a way where it's like, hey, you know what? They can also be used for this, you know? Like I've said before, I think if I had had social media when I was in high school, I don't think my depression would have been as bad. Because I would have been able to talk with people and kind
connect in other ways.
I think it would have broken the isolation that I was feeling. Whereas, you know, in those times it was, but on the other hand, you know, the bullying levels are different, because at least in our day, the bullying pretty much ended when you left school. Now it's, you know, it can go, nonstop because of social media. But I think this is a great program to jump into. And again, even if you don't suffer from any mental illnesses, you know, jump into that hashtag on there, like search that hashtag and read some of the stories, you know, again, to help understand, to see what people go through, so that when you see someone talking about how they can't get out of bed, you aren't like, oh, yeah, whatever, you know, or, you know, even if it's to help you get over some of the you know, judgment that a lot of people throw at mental illness, because it doesn't manifest in a way you can see it generally. You know, certain kinds do, obviously, anxiety, panic attacks, those ones you can look at a person and go, whoa, you know, depression doesn't always manifest that way. So, you know, it's a little harder sometimes. You know, bipolar too. You know, you can look at somebody and never really realize they're bipolar. So, but anyway, like I said, I wanted to bring that up because I thought it was kind of a cool, you know, kind of a cool thing. And again, it's hashtag here for you. So.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, guys. I think it's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode.
No, we're just over an hour.
Just over an hour?
Yeah.
Right on time?
Yeah, we're right on.
All right.
Yep.
Cool. I just went by so quick today.
Yeah.
So, with that, are we good?
Yeah, I think so.
Good. Great chat.
Cool. Good chat. All right. With that, if you want to continue the conversation, you can reach out to me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with the G. You can also reach us on our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can also reach us on via email at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. And for you, Henno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Henno. Look for me on Facebook, Henno Heiter.
Thanks. Brian?
You can also reach the show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod. Our Facebook group can be found at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. And we've got, you know, a bunch of resources over there on the notes page or whatever it's called. That's, you know, like suicide prevention hotline numbers, NAMI.org's website, you know, different things that are, like chat-based things for people who have anxiety, you know, in different links. So, you know, go check that out or hit one of us up and we can kind of point you in that direction. I can be found on Twitter at Stunami. My other podcast, Salty Language, can be found at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. And, you know, if you want to, if you post something on that, Instagram, thing, let me know. My name is Stunami on Instagram also. Tag me in that and let me know that you posted something. You know, so yeah. And with that, I guess I'll also remind everybody we're not therapists or, doctors or trained professionals. We're just three people sharing our tips and experiences. The show should not be, seen as a replacement for therapy, and please don't self-diagnose. If you think you need help, please go seek the help out. Again, there's, you know, all sorts of things out there to help people find therapists and help with, you know, that may help sliding scale. Again, NAMI.org, I've said it like 100 times on this episode, but it's a really good resource. But that's something they do. They can help you find a therapist within your budget, and stuff like that. So, again, if you need help, though, please seek it out. And then if you're feeling suicidal or homicidal, feeling like you may be a danger to yourself or others, please contact someone, whether it's someone in your support system or 911, go to a hospital, just anything along those lines. Call one of the suicide prevention hotline numbers, those kind of things to make sure that you don't act negatively on this. And again, it doesn't have to be like end stage stuff. If you find yourself making a plan of how you would do it, if you find yourself writing a note or anything along those lines, that's the time to act before it goes any further. So please reach out to somebody and get help. And then lastly, speaking of reaching out, as this whole episode's kind of been about here, is, reach out to a friend. Reach out to somebody that you haven't talked to, especially with being mental health awareness month. Reach out to somebody and, ask, talk to them about their mental health. It doesn't have to be somebody suffers from things. Just sometimes people just need someone to reach out because their mental health, maybe they're running crazy and they just need some help calming down, mm-hmm. Or whatever. But reach out to somebody because, again, you never know what kind of difference you can make in their day, their life, or whatever. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And with that, let's see, what do we got here? Mm-hmm. Keep breathing, wiggle your toes, reach out to somebody, and, try and have a great week.